Hello, it is Fabian Williams, marriage and family therapist with lifeanew.com. And today I want to talk about what you can talk about in therapy. Would you believe we get that question? There are some people who just don't talk. So we often sit in therapy in silence. And I know silence is a therapeutic tool. However, when you have an agenda and you know that you want to get to it, but you have a hard time expressing that, or you get into therapy and freeze up, or whatever happens, for whatever reason, there are times that we sit in therapy in complete silence. So to avoid that, I have a few things that you can go in knowing that you need. And let me give you one tip, and that is to journal in between sessions or before you even go to your first session, because journaling helps. And sometimes it helps in your phone, because your phone is really, usually most people have it on their person. So journaling in your phone, those things that you want to address in therapy, things as they come up. Because over the course of the week, sometimes you forget that that was an issue, or you kind of put it on the back burner because that's what you've been used to do. You're going to do the things that you're accustomed to doing because you've made them your habit or your pattern. So let me get to my list, because you know me as a list girl. So the first thing, something easy to talk about, is your goals and your career. Career especially, because some people at your job, I know, got some mental space that they're taking up in your head, at least for some of us. Some of us have those stressful coworkers that take us there, stressful bosses, stressful management, all of that stuff. So that's something that you can address in therapy. Another thing is small issues. And do I have a piece of paper? So somebody did this analogy. It was a great analogy. He took a piece of paper, tore off a little piece, and put it on the ground, and everybody walked over it, right? But then as he continued tearing that piece of paper and made a pile, for those extra organized people, it drove them insane. And for those that aren't even organized, you're looking at it like, why are people walking over all of this junk, right? That's what happens with small issues inside us. Small issues don't seem like they're really bothering us too much, but when you have a plethora of small issues occurring over and over and over again, they become that huge elephant in the room that everybody is walking around. So small issues are some of the things you want to address, like, why does this bother me so much? And your therapist, I promise you, probably does not have the answer. The reality is God has placed all the answers within you, and my job as your therapist is to help you to stir it up and bring it up to the surface. So those small issues you can talk about in therapy. Patterns are things that you've gotten accustomed to doing, things that you do because you've always done it, or because mom always done it, or because grandma always done it, or because this is the way our family does it, right? But sometimes they're not healthy. Sometimes they're not serving you. If your patterns are no longer serving you, this is something you want to address with your therapist. You want to talk about, why do I do this? How do I change this? Is this something that I need to change? Is this healthy? Is it unhealthy? All the list goes on. And of course, your feelings and emotions. Dr. Gloria Wilcox created this thing called the feeling wheel. And if I was smart, I would have it right here, right? But okay. She created this feeling wheel. You can look it up. It's everywhere. People have made all kinds for children, for adults, for seniors, for different jobs, everything. But the feeling wheel is great because it allows us to get in touch with those feelings that we don't often get in touch with. It's easy to say, I'm mad. It's easy to say, I'm sad. It's easy to say, those things that she places in the center that most people call their primary emotions. But in reality, those are secondary. They're secondary to what spans out on that feeling wheel. So, for example, when I'm mad, maybe I'm embarrassed. Maybe I'm disappointed. Maybe I'm discouraged. All of those things. So those are the things that span out. And I'm acting like I'm holding a feeling wheel, right? I don't have a wheel here. But anyway, so I span out on that feeling wheel to go to the real emotions that are coming up for me, that are making me react the way that I am. But that's getting in touch with your feelings. And that's a great thing to talk about with your therapist. Negative thoughts, automatic negative thoughts. We talk about that in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a young man, Peter, and I can't think of his last name, and I love to give people credit, but he created ants to pets. He talked about automatic negative thoughts. Let's make them positive, encouraging thoughts. Your therapist can help you change ants to pets. Challenges. What is challenging you right now? What are the things that are in your way that you want to get out of the way, but something in you is blocked and you can't seem to do it without verbally processing it? This is something to bring up in therapy. Also, relationships. Relationships is my thing because, of course, I love working with couples, and relationships are great to talk about in therapy because you begin to see where you could change you, because you're the only person you are actually in control of in the relationship. Conflict goes right along with relationships. That's a great thing to talk about in therapy, because conflicts occur because somewhere in there we are being rubbed in a way that we don't even recognize, and before we know it, we're reacting and we're not speaking to each other for a week or whatever, however that plays out in your life. Trauma. So then getting to trauma, me being focused in trauma, loving everything trauma involved, because that is just, I guess, my zhuzh is what you could call it. I like to go back and go into that family of origin and dig into those areas. And this is a great place to find a therapist, a trauma therapist, trauma focused. If you truly are dealing with trauma, if you're dealing with that avoidance, if you're dealing with that hyper arousal, if you're dealing with rumination, if you're dealing with all of that stuff that goes along with trauma for real, it's good to find a trauma therapist and you can begin to process that stuff. I am a proponent of EMDR. I love it. I'm EMDR training presently, and I think that it does a great job in dealing with one traumatic event at a time, especially for those with complex trauma. But this is something you could talk about with your therapist. We address the latest, the greatest, and the first. And the latest is like, what's the last thing that happened? What's the greatest occurrence of this traumatic event? And what was the first time you've had something similar? So those are things that you can process with your therapist and prepare yourself to go in to therapy and do. And then memories, childhood memories especially. Some of those just stick. They're just mental Velcro, and they stick in that amygdala, and they drive us I don't want to use the word crazy. They drive us. Yeah, they drive us. Let's go there. We want to get rid of those. No, we don't want to get rid of all of the memories. We want to get rid of the negative connotation attached to those memories. Stuckness, of course. Anything that you're stuck in is something that you want to verbally process with your therapist. And last but not least on my list is strengths and growths. Those things that are strengths, because sometimes it's difficult for us to talk about our strengths, what makes us great. But then we want to also be able to discuss our growth areas. Where do I need to grow? So knowing that I can do this, and this, I would love to be able to add this to my repertoire of things that I do well, or things that I am especially designed to do. I hope that helps. I hope that those ideas help you go into therapy with something to talk about, a goal to reach, something to get to. And I pray that you have a wonderful day. Again, I am Fabian Williams, marriage and family therapist with Life Anew, LIFEANU.com is where you can reach me. Have a blessed day.